In the late 1800s, European powers were rapidly colonizing Africa. Britain controlled vast territories. France expanded across the continent. Belgium ruled through brutality in the Congo. And Italy wanted an empire too. European leaders believed African nations would fall easily before modern armies and colonial power. But one African kingdom refused to bow. High in the mountains of East Africa, Ethiopia prepared for war. What happened next shocked the world. An African army defeated a European empire so badly, it changed global history forever. This is the story of how Ethiopia humiliated Italy in war. By the late 19th century, the scramble for Africa had begun. European nations were racing to divide and conquer the continent. Italy, eager to prove itself as a major European power, targeted Ethiopia, one of the few independent African kingdoms left. Italian leaders believed Ethiopia would become another easy colony. They were dangerously wrong. The conflict began with deception. In 1889, Italy signed the Treaty of Wuchale with Ethiopian Emperor Menelik II. But there was a problem. The Italian version of the treaty claimed Ethiopia was required to conduct foreign affairs through Italy, effectively making Ethiopia an Italian protectorate. The Amharic version said something completely different. Menelik II realized Italy was trying to trick Ethiopia into surrendering its sovereignty. Furious, he rejected the treaty. Italy responded with military aggression. Confident in modern European weapons and colonial superiority, Italy prepared to invade Ethiopia. But Ethiopia was not unprepared. Emperor Menelik II began uniting rival ethnic groups and regional leaders across the kingdom. Tens of thousands of Ethiopians answered the call. Men and women traveled across mountains carrying supplies, weapons, and food for the coming war. Ethiopia also modernized its military. Menelik purchased rifles, artillery, and ammunition from European arms dealers. By the time Italy launched its invasion, Ethiopia had assembled one of the largest African armies of the era. Estimates suggest over 100,000 Ethiopian troops mobilized against the Italians. And unlike many colonized regions, Ethiopia fought as a united sovereign state defending its independence. On March 1, 1896, the two forces collided near the town of Adwa. Italian commanders underestimated Ethiopia badly. They believed African fighters would panic against European military tactics. Instead, Ethiopian forces overwhelmed them. The terrain favored Ethiopian troops, who knew the mountains far better than the invading army. Communication failures and poor planning left Italian units isolated. Then came the counterattack. Ethiopian warriors charged from multiple directions. Rifle fire echoed across the mountains as Italy's invasion force collapsed into chaos. By the end of the battle, thousands of Italian soldiers were dead, captured, or fleeing. It was one of the greatest military defeats suffered by a European colonial power in Africa. And the consequences were enormous. Italy was humiliated internationally. Ethiopia remained independent. And across the colonized world, the victory became a symbol of African resistance and black pride. The Battle of Adwa was more than just a military victory. It shattered the myth that European armies were unbeatable. At a time when much of Africa was falling under colonial rule, Ethiopia proved resistance was possible. The victory inspired anti-colonial movements across Africa and the African diaspora. For many black communities worldwide, Ethiopia became a symbol of independence, dignity, and resistance against imperialism. In an era when empires believed Africa could be conquered without resistance, Ethiopia stood its ground, and at Adwa, an African kingdom defeated a European empire in one of history's most shocking reversals. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more untold African history and forgotten stories the world needs to remember. And comment below. Which African resistance story should we uncover next?